All right, we are on the Lesson 6 practice problems from Algebra 1, Unit 4. This is on page 175 of your student workbooks for Illustrative Mathematics by Imagine Learning. And this first part is just asking you to do some true-false. Let's look at what it's asking based on this graph. This graph represents Andres' distance from his bicycle as he walks in the park. Decide whether the following statements are true. So over here on the side, you're going to put just a little true or false on whether you think the statements are true or false. The graph has multiple horizontal intercepts. Remember that a horizontal intercept is where it touches down at 0 on the x-axis. Does it have multiple horizontal intercepts? A horizontal intercept of the graph represents the time when Andres was with his bike. What do you think? Is the horizontal intercept the time he was with his bike? The minimum of the graph is at 17:1. Go and look at the point. Remember, that's an x comma y. Is that the minimum of the graph? The graph has two maximums. Remember, a maximum is a peak or a highest point. What do you think? About 21 seconds after he left, go look at 21, he was the furthest away, about 8.3 feet. Go check out 21, 8.3. Do you think that's true or false? You can go over these answers tomorrow with your teacher, but make sure you have a true or a false for each one. This graph represents the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit as a function of time. Tell the story of the temperature throughout the day. Again, we are expecting you to be independent thinkers at this point. You are going to go type or write up your own story about this graph. Notice there's not even any numbers. So you can say the temperature is going up at a slower rate, then a faster rate. You could even say constant rate because they're linear. Then peaks around what time? And then goes down at a slower rate, and then down at a faster rate, and ends up lower than it started. I don't know, like literally just make up a story about the graph for yourself. What do you think? Next is a matching. Match each feature of the situation with a corresponding statement. What is the maximum height of this graph? Remember that the max is the peak or the highest point. So where is that represented? So you can just go draw a line at the highest point. Well, that max happens at time 4. And so that's why this would match to h of 4 when the x or the time is 4. You're going to go do the same, matching the minimum, matching the height staying the same. What would the height staying the same look like on the graph? And then the starting height. Remember, the starting height is always going to be our vertical intercept, our y-intercept. Okay, go see how you do with the matching and then check your answers with your teacher tomorrow. Here are the here are the equations that define three functions. Which function value is the largest? This means we need to make an input of 100 into each function and then choose which one is the largest. So we're going to go f of 100. Practice saying this notation language with me as you're doing this. F of 100 equals, plug in that input of 100, and then you're going to grab a calculator and solve that. Then you're going to go and do G of 100. G of 100, you're going to just plug 100 in for X and grab a calculator and solve that. Finally, H of 100. You're going to put 100 in for X and then plug that into a calculator and solve it. After you've solved all three, which one is the greatest? You're going to go do the same using F, using G, using H, but plugging in negative 100. You're then going to go do the same, plugging in 1 over 100, 1 over 100, 1 over 100 into each one. So do that for A, B, and see which function is the largest. All right, number 5, function f is defined by this equation. What is f of 2? It wants you to plug a 2 in for the function and solve. What is f of 3? It wants you to plug in a 3 to the function and solve. And finally, explain why f of 2 plus f of 3 is not the same as f of 5. So I can't just, oops, you saw what I did there. I can't just add the inputs. 2 plus 3 is 5. That does not equal the same output. So you could start by saying what these really were and what they add up to, and how that's not the same as if I plug in 5. 5 squared would give me 25. Anyways, explain that in your own words for part C, how you would like. Finally, number 6, Priya bought 2 plants for a science experiment where she brought them home. The first plant was 5 centimeters tall. The second plant was 4. So I want you to picture the first plant is 5 centimeters tall, and picture the second plant is only 4. Which plant is taller at the end of 2 weeks? Now we're going to look at the growth rate. The first plant is growing 5 centimeters per week. So it starts at 5 and is growing at 0.5 centimeters per week. The second plant, which started at 4 centimeters, but it's growing 0.75 centimeters per week. And by the way, you don't have to use a W for weeks. You could use an X if you like that better. And which plant is taller at the end of 2 weeks? That means that we are going to get a height after 2 weeks on both of these. So plug in 2, put that into your calculator and see what you get. Height, let's call the other function plant 2, whatever, G. And the height for this one is going to be 2 weeks. You're going to plug into a calculator and see what you get. So which plant is taller at the end of 2 weeks? Plug into, see what you get. But which plant is taller at the end of 10 weeks? You're going to notice that the further out, that second one starts to catch up. So can you plug in 10 to both functions and see what you get? Priya represents this equation where these two are set equal to each other. Oh, by the way, they did use W. Go back and make it a W. Anyways, what does the solution to this equation W equals 4 mean? It's when both heights of the plants, you got it, are equal. What does the solution to this inequality mean? When is the interval that's like a weird new word I just made up. When is the interval when the plant 1 is taller than plant 2? You should solve this for W, and you should solve this for W for me, please. And then we'll go over the answers in class. Thank you so much. Hope those homework hints helped.